month because I think of all the things that we could offer solopreneurs, being able to come up with a plan for how you develop, produce, and market intellectual property that you know, stuff that you know, how do you get that into a shape that you can sell it online? And that's really that's what we're all, in a sense, looking for opportunities in. And so Michael and I started talking, I don't know, 6 months ago, something like that. And I was just really impressed with how he is looking at the whole life cycle of it. So it's, he also is an entrepreneur that's built some software companies and sold them. And he has an idea for doing a class like this that might be around doing actual programming. So taking non-programmers and making them into quote-unquote architects. But then we decided as a starting point, this would be a better class, sort of helping you discover what you know and taking that into some sort of product. So Michael, remind me again the companies that you sold. I'll let you start off with a little bio or whatever. And just really quickly, for housekeeping purposes, we are recording this and we do intend to post it. So we hope you're okay with that. And if you're not, this is your chance to escape. I think we're good. So Michael, go ahead and give us a little bit of background and then take us into productizing.
All right, thanks, Leslie. Well, thank you all for coming today. My name is Michael Fountain. I am a developer, a software architect. I'm also a serial entrepreneur. And today we're going to talk about productizing what you know. And the summary here, learning what you know that actually is valuable and how to take that information and turn it into something that can be consumed by someone that is looking for that information or wants to get ahead or wants to leverage your life experience. And so the workbook that I put together for you guys today, we'll walk through this. We will walk through it a little fast only because we have a short amount of time. I'll try to save some time towards the end for Q&A, and always there's an opportunity to learn more. So let's go ahead. Well, let's give you a little bit of bio real quick. So since Leslie prepped that, I started out not knowing that I was going to be an entrepreneur. I don't think anybody says, oh, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. It just kind of happens. It evolves over time. I'm the oldest of 5 boys. I grew up in a military family, so there wasn't a lot of skin left on the bone at the end of payday. And I learned that if I wanted something, I had to go out and do it. I had to go out and get it myself. And I think that's the seed, if I look back, that actually started me thinking outside the box of traditional jobs, running a corporate treadmill. To kind of fast forward and take advantage of this time, my early days of working, I was in the restaurant industry. I did restaurant management for a while. That's what got me through school. I actually paid for my school. But I learned quickly that I didn't want to be a restaurant manager. That's a really tough life. And I envy everybody that does it. I tip very well when I go to restaurants because I understand the pain of the server. When I realized that wasn't what I wanted to do and I went back to school to go get a computer degree, that's where I met my first business partner. And taking what I knew restaurants, we decided to build restaurant menus and put them online. And that was the first iteration of trying to get something online, leveraging what we knew, leveraging the space. We weren't very successful back in the 90s because I don't think the restaurant industry was really ready. Pivoting that was going to take many, many years to get them into a space where they realized the value of putting their menu online. Now, how many people go out without looking online to see what they have on the menu? Complete opposite. So right after college, I went to Seattle. I moved here in early 2000, worked for Amazon.com as a software developer, software engineer. Managed a small team of developers. We did a lot of product launches back then, so I learned the launch cycle, how to take software, how to take ideas, and they had this really fast iterative process where you'd have a meeting on Monday about this great idea. On Tuesday, everybody would develop it. On Wednesday, we'd review it, QA it. On Thursday, it would go live. And on Friday, you'd be analyzing the results. And so I was like, wow, you can take an idea to somebody's idea. They get all these momentum behind it and just really fast iterate on this. Productizing. And so it was really fascinating. I did that for a few years. After 9/11, Amazon did a lot of layoffs, and so I was one of the casualties then. But I started a software company, leveraging what I knew at Amazon, and going back to my restaurant days and all the guys that we were still billing for their restaurant websites. And we built billing software. And that billing software was my first software company, the first company that I actually owned. I did have a co-founder. And we built that software company from about, well, we call it 2 men in a basement because I was here, he was in Louisville, Kentucky at the time. And we went from 2 guys all the way up to about 20 guys and girls. And we serviced the web hosting and ISP industry. And that business was really well. It was a 7-figure business for us. And we ended up selling that business to Parallels, who is here in Seattle. I did a lot of consulting after that. Got deep dive into marketing and deep dive into just leveraging what I needed to do to pay the bills, as they say. I recently moved here last year, working for Parallels right now, but also just kind of continuing the consulting the business that I grew when I was in Louisville, Kentucky. And so to take advantage of the time, I know we only have a little bit of time, so I'll go ahead and fast forward. Let's just get started, dive in. Does everybody have a workbook that we can look at? If you don't, we have a couple of extras over here. Do you guys need 2 over there? You can take those 2 over there. Thank you. What I try to do is just kind of structure this information in a way that you guys can consume it, and also reference back to it without having to always kind of go back to your notes. But there's plenty of places to add notes as we go through. So productizing what you know, it's learning what to know. It's learning how to turn what you know and what your audience wants into products and services that can earn you an income. And it can be a side income, it can be a full-time income. Really depends on how hard you work at it, and how dedicated you decide to put your time into it. So when we look at the 4 steps to productizing what you know, if we were to take this down and chunk it into 4 main points, the main points, we're going to define your topic and we're going to define your audience. And that is part of what we'll do today. We'll talk about it. There's a lot of exercises that you can do. We just don't have enough time to actually do all of them. But there are a few really good exercises in this workbook that we'll work through. Step number 2 is we'll create your product plan. And that's where you really start to see how your information gels into something tangible. And I've got some examples of those as well. Step number 3, we will create an income plan. You would be surprised how many people don't decide to plan their income plan. And so there's a little small worksheet that helps that. And it's part of this whole process of, what are the things that I know and how can they be grouped together into products and product suites, and then how can that turn into an income stream if you need a side income stream or a dedicated income stream. What does that look like? What are you working towards? And lastly, it's creating your market plan. And the marketing plan is, I think, where a lot of people fail. And I've got a really good slide towards the end that kind of emphasizes how important it is to understand the marketing of your stuff, because you can't just put it online and expect somebody to buy it or sell it. It just doesn't work that way. So I've got a really good diagram that breaks that down for us. So when we talk about the journey, the biggest thing to take away from this is, don't underestimate the value of what you know. Because when we look at your journey, your journey is really your perspective, right? So you're going from point A to point B, and you're learning a lot of stuff along the way. You are either learning it from other people, you're learning it on your own, you're doing your own self-study, but the journey at the top is what people think it looks like, right? This is what everybody says. Okay, I'm at point B now. I was at point A back in the early 90s, and this is what everybody assumes it looks like. But really what it does look like is, you realize that there were times when you should have done this instead of done that. And you realize, what are the shortcuts I could have taken? Or, when did I need to pivot, and why did I pivot? And that's your perspective. But it creates this kind of reality distortion of what people think and what is reality, right? And that is your opportunity, because it's your perspective of what it takes. And when you take that information and you congeal it down into something that
is in this workbook, for example, or I've got some other examples that I'll pass around in a minute. People can start to see, the light bulbs will start to click. This is how you do it. This is how it's broken down. It isn't a big leap. The success doesn't happen overnight. It takes a little bit of work, but I think it's fun work, and the journey is, as they say, life is the journey, right? So the exercise that I have for you right here, and we don't all have to do it right now because we really don't have enough time. However, I want you to think about it like this. You have a desired result, and you know that in order to get that desired result, you need to pass through either certain milestones or you have to learn certain things. Everybody starts out not as a master. They start out as the student. So what does a student need to know to get to this desired result? And when we look at your journey, if you're point B and that's somebody's desired result, what were all the things that you had to do? And this worksheet, as simple as it is, will really help you break that down. And these little milestones will start to develop into products. Because when someone wants to go on a journey with you, you kind of have to carry them along the way. A lot of people want to fast forward all the way to the end, but without doing all the work, right? And when I say without doing all the work, it's typically without spending the time to learn everything that you had to learn. So you have an opportunity to shortcut their time from point A to point A, point 1, to point 2, point 3, however many steps it takes to actually get this desired result. An example, so if I was to teach a developer how to write code, I would have to teach them how to set up an environment, how to architect an application, how to build the first iteration of the product, how to put that product online, then how to market that product. And these are all milestones that they just have to learn either on their own or through someone else or through school or through study. And so this is what it takes, or this is what it looks like to turn your milestones into results. So at the end of the day, people want the results, right? They want the desired outcome. That is their goal. So this worksheet is really good. One of your homework items for this for next week, because we'll need it, will be to fill this out. Okay? And think about it. Yes?
So, and this probably, you are probably talking about this in both respects, but both our journey to what our desired result is in terms of commoditizing our information and stuff, as well as the content of what we're actually trying to help other people understand, presumably involves a similar process for them, and our expertise is helping them shortcut this in the way that yours is going to hopefully help us shortcut filling ours in.
At the end of the day,
Is that true that you're kind of meeting it in both ways? Because what we're filling in here, is it related to our content or related to our own journey to having it up and running? And
it starts with your journey, okay? So so there's this part of self-reflection, How did I get to where I am today? And you have to think back, well, at some point, I didn't know this information. So what were those key milestones that leveled up my life or leveled up my earning income or how did I level up? What was those steps that I made? And those are the key milestones. But you start with your journey. And then as you start to compress that down into what customers will want, then you can break this down into those individual components. Because everything that you learn or everything that you put together is going to, you're not just going to hand them the results. What you're going to hand them is the framework to get the results. And that framework is broken down into steps. And those steps are essentially your milestones. And so this can go down, you can have this nested in each one of these squares when you go that deep and when you do planning. And when I work with folks, that's some of the stuff we do. We say, okay, big picture journey, now let's break that down into these little milestones. What did it take to hit this milestone? Because what it took to hit this milestone becomes an information nugget that you're either going to put online to get traffic or you're going to put it online to sell. And these information nuggets help someone carry them over all the way to the end and hopefully get the desired result, whatever they're looking for. So this is really meant to be done hand in hand because it's a process. But I think it's a really good framework, and I've worked through it many times with solo entrepreneurs or experts, just trying to help them work through this and think through it. So when we look at the next step of what I call, my how-to inventory, You've got your journey, right? And your journey is either your career that you've done, where you've worked, or things you've learned along the way. But there's always a time to take an inventory of all the things you know how to do. And it's simple as that. And just write down, I know how to, and then just fill in the blank. And for me, it would be, I know how to build software. Okay? I know how to architect software. I know how to take an idea and create an ebook out of it. I know how to take that ebook and record it and create a podcast out of it. I know how to take that podcast and put it online and sell it. I know how. And so you just start to, take an inventory of the things you know how to do, no matter how big or small that they are. But that inventory is important, because what you'll start to do when we go through this process is you'll create an inventory and you'll kind of shake it around, and you'll start to see things bucket together. And these buckets together become eventually your product suites. So product suites being, and Apple is a great example of product suite, and it's an integrated product suite, right? The iPod, the iPhone, the iPad, iTunes, and it's this framework, and they're all integrated together, but they didn't all come out at once. It was a progression, right? And so that's the progression of the prior page, but also here of your inventory. What do you know how to do? What do people always ask you to do? For me, it was at one point every time I went over to my grandparents' house, it was help me fix my computer, help me fix my email, or help me with my website. Those were the things that I was asked how to do. And then for me, it was a journey of leveraging what I know how to do and figuring out how to package it and product it and going to study on my own. And eventually just doing it over and over and over again until I said, oh, wow, there's actually a formula or a framework here, and it can be done. So when we look at this page, take some time, because next week when we look at this, it'll be really important. So take some time, write down your inventory and what you're often asked how to do, and kind of stack rank them with your passion. There's a lot of things that you're asked to do that you really don't like to do, or a lot of things you know how to do that you really don't care to teach others to do. But it's okay. You need to take that inventory. Right. Yes?
I think you might have just answered my question, because I was kind of thinking, well, what's the difference between the I know how to and I'm often asked how to? Because people know I know how to do this thing, therefore they would ask me. But you're saying the right-hand column might be more like, I'm asked these things because I know it. It's not something I necessarily.
Yeah, and there's a blending of knowing how to do and loving doing it, right? And so when you have this inventory and you start to shake it around, you'll find some things will just follow. Yeah, I know how to do that. Not really passionate about it. It was a technique or a tactic. It's something I could work into something else. But when you start to say, well, what are the things that I want to teach other people how to do? That's where your passion really rises to the top, because those are the things that people feel when you talk about it. And it's like, oh yeah, I know how to fix a computer. Let me tell you how to fix a computer. You plug in the RAM, but I'm not really passionate about that. I have a Mac now. I never open it. That's what I'm passionate about. I used to build computers, but I didn't want to do that anymore. So that's important, and it's all part of this thinking of your information. And your life experience, and everybody is different. And so teaching a class like this, a large class, is actually a little difficult, because everybody's perspective is different, and the route that you go, while we can say we're all walking in the right direction, we're all walking in the same direction, in reality we're taking different paths to get there. And part of working with you on a smaller basis is actually to kind of dissect those and really kind of put together a plan. And so this workbook kind of starts that thinking process, and that's the goal of this. So let's talk about products a little bit, because once you figure out kind of what you all know what you know, but when you start to stack rank it and you start to talk about products, I would say the best products are content that creates results, not just content that is entertainment. So when you get into software development, there's a lot of entertainment-based software, iPad games, iPhone games, and then there is software that solves a pain. And typically those become more profitable because people are willing to pay for the pain and not necessarily pay for the pleasure. When you're looking at taking your information and consolidating it into something that someone wants to buy, they're typically willing to they want results. And that's what they really want. So keep that in mind as we go through this. So there's 12 types of information products. And there are more, but these are, I would say, probably the primary 12 that anybody in this room can do. There's nothing stopping you from pretty much doing any of them. If you like to write, or you like to talk, or you like to demonstrate and show how, or you like to be live, there's something for you. You don't have to do them all, but there's definitely something for you in this mix. So if you like to write, the things that you can do obviously are going to be ebooks, and they're going to be traditional books, workbooks, these little pamphlets like you see right now, instruction guides. Those are going to be the things that are going to fall into this category. If you really like to write, like novelist style write, a lot of book opportunities. You know, self-publishing, you can do it now. It doesn't take a scientist or a tech geek to actually make it work. There are tools online that can help you write books. There's a difference between being self-published and being published by a traditional publishing agency, but you can leverage those. So if you like to talk, podcasts, teleseminars, audio programs. So podcasts would be something you might download off of iTunes. Audio program might be something that you turn into, well, you can record your voice and you can put it online, or you can just have a teleseminar like everybody on a phone call. Those things work. Is that for you? Is that what you like to do? Is that how you like to take your information? Do you love to talk about it? Do you love to tell stories? Do small seminars like this. If you like to demonstrate, this is, I think, where a lot of people go to is online training, video webinars, DVD programs. It's where you take your information and you turn it into something like this. So this is called the Shoe Money system, Jeremy Shoe Money. Shoe Money is not his real name. It's his, I guess it's kind of, I don't know if you guys can see this, but it's basically a DVD set of him doing training in front of a video, recording it, turning it into a CD, packaging it up. You can get this stuff printed really cheap. You can actually print on demand. Hiring a designer to come up with a front and a back is relatively inexpensive. You don't have to go to large shops and print thousands of copies and pay for all the overhead anymore. You can actually do this stuff on demand. See if I find another one. This is called the 4-day cash machine, which is a marketing technique that was created by a guy named Frank Kern, who is an information marketer. And all he did was get in front of a camera, get in front of a whiteboard, and he wrote it all out, talked in front of the camera, burned it to a DVD, and sold it. I think he sells this one for probably $9. He might even give it away as a bonus and just charge people shipping and handling. But in the process of giving something away and charging somebody shipping and handling, you get their address, right? So what are the techniques you need to do that? Yes, ma'am?
And you also get your money back, because just the money that it took to do that, which isn't that much, but still, he gets his money back.
Shipping and handling absolutely, can cover print costs in that. I think, I want to say this was $9.99 shipping and handling. That's how much he was selling it for. But it was a lead generation tool for him, because people wanted it, they wanted to watch it on their own time. And in the process, he got your name, your information, and your mailing address. And he blends online and offline marketing. So a lot of his stuff is online, but don't be surprised if you get this package in the mail of some great training material. He might send a book like this, or a pamphlet, or just a letter saying thank you. Because it's blending all of that ways that people communicate. And you can still do marketing offline if you do it correctly. I think it's a blend that makes the most sense. So looking at these 12 information products, we're going to break down into product names. I think this is one of the fun things you can do is the strategy of coming up with product names. And once you start to see these put together, they're kind of broken down into 3 levels. And the name has a lot to do with perceived value. So when you look at, learn how to productize what you know, or, how to productize what you know, or workbook, toolkit, level 2, what are some type of training or classroom or workshop or system, blueprint, formula, framework, series, academy, mastermind, mastery. What are those names? How do they make you feel? Like if you're going to a weekend event called Experts Academy, which is put on by a guy by the name of Brendan Burchard. It's a very expensive event. I've been to one and I've studied from him, and the stuff that he does is amazing. He'll pack 800 or 1,000 people in a room, and it's an amazing event. But he teaches, and he teaches like this. This is his style of teaching, which is just to break it down into small chunks and to deliver it in a way that can be consumed and can be learned and can be studied from. You can take this and you can refer back to it. So, when you look at this and you say, okay, well, I've got these products and services, eventually you have to get them online. And when you put them online, they've got to live somewhere, and they're going to live on a domain name. And the most popular domain today is .com. Has been, always will be. There are a bunch of other TLDs that are coming out, but will just create further confusion for some. So if you can try to come up with something that's a .com that's still available, and there are variations of that as well that you can work on. But the products and services that you create, you'll want to start thinking about them as .coms. Later, I think week 3 or week 4 of this, we'll actually put one online. And what we're going to do is we're going to take Productize What You Know. I own the domain name .com, and we're going to take it, all this information, and we're going to put it online, and we're going to do it together in this class. But it all starts with, how did I break it down? And that's kind of what we're talking about today. How am I going to plan to put it online? And then we're going to actually get our hands wet, get our hands dirty. Not wet. That's not good. So when you get into thinking about products and strategizing what your products are, I like to call, think of it like a product wheel. And you have, when this is completely filled out and you have products all the way around this wheel, it creates kind of this hub and spoke architecture. And the middle of this is you, right? And all of the products and services that you create kind of take someone through a journey, through a path, to get to mastery or to get the desired results. And your customer's journey typically starts right there in the upper right-hand corner. And it might start with something that's free. Remember, we talked about the inherent value of some of the products versus others. It might be an ebook, or a book, or a podcast, or just a how-to guide. Those are the things that you're going to typically find in the upper right-hand corner when they don't know you and you're just starting to have that conversation with them. And as you progress to this quadrant right here, you've got teleseminars, audio programs, or webinars. And this is where they get to see you and hear your voice and really start to connect with you. And as they progress, you have ways that you can become a speaker, or video training, or DVD programs. This is where you really start to kind of show them how to do things. And they're going to download the DVD or buy the DVD or go online and do the training. And then once they progress to this level up here, that's the deep dives. That's the masterminds, or the coaching, one-on-one coaching, or small group coaching, seminars. But nobody typically starts here. And very seldom do they start here, and occasionally they'll start here, but most of them start right there, which is that very first milestone of getting to know you. So if you go back and think about, the desired results and what are the milestones it takes to get someone there, you start to see how all of this information can be bucketed together in a journey, in a path, in a story that progressively takes them all the way down through mastery, if you want to go that far. Now, you don't have to do all of these, but they're all available. And you can pick and choose based on what you want to do. Do you like to speak? Do you like to talk? Do you like to show people how to do it? That's the cool thing about productizing what you know, is there's no one-size-fits-all way to do it. You can do it the way you're comfortable with. It took a while for me to get in front of people and talk. But I was really good in small groups. I would consider this still a small group, but it's borderline large, 15 people. And it's just time and practice. And my wife and my kids were saying, "Daddy, are you nervous as you go out there?" And I say, "Yeah, a little bit, but that's okay, right?" And you just get up there and you do it. And if you fumble or you make a mistake, you just go on. Everybody's human. Everybody, it happens, right? So product wheels. Once you know the type of product wheels, then you can kind of think about it as a product suite. Because when you want to start out creating your first product, the product suites are really where you create a low value product and a high value product. And you do that for a reason. Because when you have that first low value product, whether it's free or it's shipping and handling, and they like it, they're going to want to buy more, and they want to engage with you more. So when you think about what is that first product that you're going to create and distill down into something that's consumable, make sure that you have something on the back end of that product too, which is that upsell or that different level. So typically somebody might do the ebook up here, and they'll take that ebook and they'll transcribe it, and they might put a workbook with it in here. Or they might even go further and record it and put it on a DVD, and you can buy the DVD, or you can go online and train it. So that's the natural progression of just taking your information and breaking it down into a way that people can, I think, go on the journey with you. Right? Because it is your journey, it's your perspective, but that's what you're sharing with them. But at the end of the day, there's got to be some money involved, right? And it's important that you don't underestimate the value of what you know. And before I get into that, I want to share, I saw this yesterday on the Wall Street Journal. The title is called The $4 Million Teacher. I don't know if anybody had a chance to read that or see that, but it caught my attention. It's a $4 million teacher. That just doesn't make sense. What is he doing? What's the secret? A very, very interesting article. It's still on the wallstreetjournal.com. Where was it at? WSJ? I think it was in print. I saw it online. I can't remember what website, but
I saw it on the Yahoo News.
Was it on Yahoo News? Yeah, syndicated out. But the interesting part, and I'll read it right here, was Mr. Kim works about 60 hours a week teaching English, right? Although he spends only 3 of those hours giving lectures. His classes are recorded on video, and the internet has turned them into commodities available for purchase at a rate of $4 an hour. So he took $4 an hour. So he streams them, but it includes lesson plans, textbooks, workbooks, and he's got over 200 to date. So, a teacher taking what they know, digitizing it, putting online for people that want it, that can't be there live. Right? So it's a great way to productize what you know. And he didn't have to do anything different than probably what he was doing teaching normally, just getting up and talking in front of a class of students, but now you've got the recorder on. And you can take that recording, you can transcribe it. There are services out there that you can pay to have your audio transcribed. And you take that transcription, send it to an editor, put it in and format it into an ebook that you can read along with you. Throw in all the examples that you did on the whiteboard into a workbook. And you start to see how these pieces just come together. But you've got to just take it one step at a time. And it's just one milestone at a time. And so when you go back and you're working on your milestone document, think about that. What are those little itty bitty milestones that someone has to make it to the end? What do they have to know? Where would they have gotten that information before? Let's talk about target price points. So this is a fun one. So the inherent value of products, right? These are some general guides. They're not all correct, and they're different for, they're different for industry segments, but it typically information marketing or online marketing. In the low tier, $20 to $200. I think most people are okay in that range of buying information, and that would be they might buy an ebook or download an ebook. What's an ebook right now? About $15 on the Kindle store. Sometimes you can buy them cheaper, sometimes they're free if you give them an email address. There's all kinds of strategies there. In the online internet marketing world, ebooks are good for about the $37 price point. But they got to deliver value, they got to deliver results. Traditional books, we talked about that, teleseminars, webinars, subscription services. There's a lot of information online that you subscribe to because you want the ongoing training and the ongoing reference material, and that's going to be in this low tier price point. The mid tier price point is going to be things like that 6-disc. I don't know if I actually have one. I didn't bring one with me. Or maybe I didn't. No, that's. The Shoe Money system, I believe, was, when he first sold it, I think it was $400 or $500. It actually comes with a big, thick workbook and a few other pieces of information that I didn't bring with me. But there's life after the initial sale of it. Now he gives it away as a bonus for all of his newer stuff. You can buy it for just shipping and handling, or it comes, he might bundle it together. That's the DVD home study, the seminars we talked about. High tier, so if you want to speak or become a keynote speaker, that's what you really like. You would be in the high tier price point, unless you're doing it for free or you're doing it to get your name out there. Also another strategy. Online courses is another good one. And group coaching, group masterminds typically land in the high tier because you're giving that one-on-one personal, personalized service. So when you look at, going back to your product wheel, right, and you look at the products as they were delivered in each of those categories, and you're thinking about them in price points. And again, it's part of the bigger picture, right? And we only have an hour to kind of congeal all of that down into a lot of information, but hopefully you have this workbook now to reference back and see what these price points are, and to create something, or create an idea of where you want to go and what you want to do with this. So let's see, I want to make sure we have enough time for Q&A. So this next one, planning your income plan. This is important, and you want to do this before you plan your marketing plan, because your marketing plan is there to guide you and to help you make the money that you want to make, but you need to know how much money you need to make or you desire to make. And so this simple calendar I've used for many years for my own self, and I put things on it like taxes. When are taxes due? And I know I've got to have money for taxes. Birthdays, anniversaries, major events, I want to go on vacation. And I think of it in quarters. And the reason I think of it in quarters is you typically want, if you're going to do products online, you're going to want to do about one product a quarter. Because you think about it, you'll have a product or a month to plan it, a month to produce it, and a month to sell it, market it, put it online. About once a quarter. And you might not do Q4, maybe that's your planning quarter, Christmas time or whatever. But think about what are the events that you know you want to either save up for, have money for, and it's okay. You put anything on there, tally it up, see what it looks like. Does your income plan, maybe you only need to make a couple $1,000s extra a month or a year, or you want a full-time job out of it and you want to make $100,000 extra a year. You can break that down into what it looks like, and when you break it down into either the quarters or the months, then you can look at the products that you're going to create during that time frame. Is your product strategy matching your income strategy? Or are you going to get frustrated and go, this thing's not making any money? Or I got to have money tomorrow, but I don't have a product thought of yet. So you got to think about this, right? This is what happens. Dang it, taxes are due, it's August, September, so taxes are due here. We're just now here. I'm planning to make, well, that ain't going to work. There's a lot more planning involved into it. But if you just take a few minutes and use this, I actually have a whiteboard very similar to, a little bit larger than this. I took some some black electrical tape, and I taped off these quadrants. And it's on my wall in my office. And I put up there the events. You know, if I had an event and I made some money, or if I need to make some money for a certain event, and I just plan it out, and it really helps. So going, as we talk about making money, there is this myth, right? And this is where I don't want you guys to think that, I don't want you guys to think that if you build it, they will come, because they won't. You've got to work at it. But there's a strategy to do this. And this slide right here and the next slide after that, I think will really kind of hit that in for you. I call it the truth about making money online. I learned, you know, a lot of people selling junk, selling the quick fix, selling the easy button. And they don't tell you all of the things that you need to know. And a lot of what you need to know is there's a little bit of hustle involved, right? You actually have to set the time in that calendar to plan. Think about the products, think about your customers, and then you have to do it, and you have to put it into something that is consumable, tangible. And then you have to put it online, and you have to work at marketing it, right? So to make that money online, you need one customer, only one. You know, that's where it starts. But you need one customer to buy something from you to make money online. But to get that one customer, you need several prospects. And these are people that have engaged with you, and they're interested in your stuff. Not every prospect is going to be a buyer. You know, it's not a one-to-one relationship here. But you need at least several prospects. To get several prospects, as you can see, you need to get many leads. You need to create this funnel of people that are interested in taking action in the information that you're providing. Remember the product wheel, where it starts, people's journey with you starts at the top. Well, what are you giving them to get them interested in? And how are you going to leverage that into something that they're interested in buying? To get many leads, you need to attract quality traffic. And quality traffic is not hard, but it's not easy either. You've got to have a good amount of, some people call them bribes, but I'll have a good amount of information online. You've got to be willing to give value. And that value has to be high quality value, so that when someone is consuming your information, they're thinking to themselves, this is so good, I would have paid for this information, but you're giving it to me free. You're creating this value proposition. And this is where it boils down to becoming a numbers game. So a lot of what I do, outside of just breaking down the strategy of, what you know, figuring out what products it breaks down into, figuring out how you're going to make money from it, how you're going to put it into these either product suites or consumption modalities, I guess, is looking at the numbers. And so if we look at this, we've got step 2 right here is our price points. So we talked about a $37 price point, a $67, $297, $497, $997, $2,000. These are just example price points to illustrate the purpose. And to read this, I wrote it down as I would explain it to someone. So example A, which is this column right here. If you want to attract 18,000, or if you attract 18,000 visitors, 18,000 people, and if 15% convert, so 15% of these people convert, and now they're up into this bucket. And then of those that convert, you continue to give value, and you're nurturing those prospects. And you have, what is that, 2,700? And then if 5% of those 2,700 buy your $37 product, then you will reach the goal of 137. So I think a lot of people that sell information online don't tell you step 3 and 4. They kind of leave that off, right? They say, wow, if you need $5,000 a month and you had a $37 product, you only need 135 customers. That seems reasonable. It actually is not that difficult. Go down if your price point increases while your level of effort to acquire those customers decreases. But you got to be willing to provide the value. And remember, nobody buys from you at $2,000 from day one. they typically start over here, and they say, well, I'm going to spend a little bit of money with you, and it was good. I learned something, and now I want to go deeper, and then I want to go deeper, and I want to go deeper. But then these two pieces right here are so important because this conversion rate, these aren't fixed. The conversion rates can fluctuate based off of how good your stuff is. If you're not known, you're not going to have a high conversion rate, right? So you've got to get your stuff out there in a format, and you've got to tell people about it, then they've got to tell people about it, and you slowly start to build this up. That's why you can't create a product in a month and sell it and hit your goal. So when you think about your income goal or your income plan, you really need to kind of break it down. And it's important not to be frustrated by these numbers because these numbers are entirely feasible. Okay? The numbers are entirely feasible, but they take a marketing plan that goes along with it to do that. So we've got about 10 minutes left in this hour, and I want to do Q&A, but I want to say that the worksheets that are in this book for next week, we're going to talk about how do you put together a plan that creates a funnel that can satisfy this need. And we're going to diagram it out, and I'll show you some examples as well. And as we do diagram it out, you're going to be referencing back to your own journey, your own milestones, your own products, your own product ideas, the suites, how they're put together. And we'll go from there. One of the things that I will do at the very end of these 4 weeks, if you're willing to learn more, or you want to learn more, or you want to take that deep dive, there will be something available to do that. So I just wanted to put that up there for now. You guys aren't ready yet, though. And, I think this session is information overload, right? Everybody says, holy smokes. You can productize what you know, but you've got to break it down into those little pieces, and you've got to be willing to take one piece at a time. And we can definitely do that. Okay. Questions? Yes?
I've been kind of working on the pieces a bit and conceptualizing those for a while now, but I'm getting stalled a bit on them, putting them into products to some extent. So one piece is if I've got online content, how to set it up so that I can sell that, and what it is just actually getting access, giving people access
Sure, membership.
to a piece of a website, and the mechanics of setting that up. And I don't know if we're going to get into that sort of
Yes.
thing, or it's
Yeah.
like go hire a web developer and set it up for you. But I've been looking at WordPress and Drupal, and should I go back this way and how to tackle that piece of it, and particularly then also looking at content pieces that are actually tools. So it's a form and checklists and tools so they can actually go out and do some of the pieces. So it's a tutorial and then a tool to work with it, because it's how to evaluate their building for energy savings or something. So what can they look at? How can they have something that helps them do that and keeps a record of it for future reference or action planning and that sort of thing. So,
Like a big checklist or things of that nature, like.
yeah, checklists and forms, hopefully some that are sort of conditional, so it again, because there's.
You're blurring the lines between information and product and application. So information and application, right? So information can be, the stuff that we're looking at right here. This is a great. I think SitePoint's a great place if you've ever been to it. They bundle a lot of information into these great, very professional binders and DVDs, but it's not an application. But they might have spreadsheets on there that you can download and you can use, or Word docs, Word templates. This DVD in here actually has a bunch of stuff like that on it, and that's where you can do the non-traditional, or I guess it actually is more traditional application, which is a Word doc or a PowerPoint or something you fill in as you go. But when you take that and you create a product out of it online, and now it becomes an online application that's software as a service.
Yes.
Different. Okay. I do that too.
Yeah.
But totally different conversation. But breaking down what you know is the first part of productizing information into a software solution.
Yeah.
So they do go hand in hand. So all of this stuff that you're going to do here is important because it's the premise to actually create software product.
Well, and some of the tools, as I've looked at sort of the big picture stuff, there's a lot of stuff that's free or the government's developing it because they're complex things. Helping people understand that those are there and how they can use them is sort of one step, and not necessarily trying to reinvent that wheel. But there's other things that I think aren't being provided that I see as opportunities, and so that is a different piece.
Well, one of the things that we'll do in week 2, we'll talk about marketing. So, this information overload right now, when we put together a marketing plan, you'll start to see how it all fits together visually. Okay? And then the week after that, we'll talk about what does it take to create that first product that's part of that big marketing plan. And then the last week, we'll actually put something online. So we'll use WordPress, we'll put something online, we'll use something called Optimize Press to create a funnel. We'll integrate it with Aweber, and I think I can probably get it all done in about 45 minutes. But I'll show you in the class what that's like. And these are things that you need to know. Whether you decide to outsource them or not is completely up to you. But you want to know how to do them yourself. Because if you know how to do them yourself, you can have fast iteration cycles. If you have to rely on someone else, you want to have an intelligent conversation with that person about what you want the outcome to be, because they didn't go through all the planning that you went through. And so I'm a big proponent of showing you how to do it. If you want to do it on your own, great. But now that you know how to do it, you can make the decision on whether you want to outsource it or not. Okay? And you can have a better decision with a developer or design agency that can do that work. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, will we also be addressing products that are not information, but are physical, tangible products that we create, rather than making something that you can mass produce and put on the internet, a physical product that somebody makes? We'll be addressing those two.
Well, I think there's printers for that now, right? With the 3D printing. Breaking down, as an entrepreneur, you look at an idea. And the ideas, when you get into, I think, software and tangible goods, you go into what I call solving the pain. And so the best ideas solve your pain first. And the thought process of that is similar, but when you actually get into production of a tangible product, that's something that I have not done before. I know people that have done it, and I can make some recommendations, but in terms of actually doing a tangible product, I don't know. There are great platforms out there today in terms of funding your tangible product. Kickstarter is phenomenal, but the most successful Kickstarter projects, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it, it's kickstarter.com. The most successful ones are the ones that have marketing behind them, because they're creating that anticipation, and they're going out there and they're bringing all of these people that have the same pain together, and it's creating that rally and that anticipation, and then they start to put money into it, but then you've got to actually produce it at the end of the day.
Well, and
Yes.
that's the trick too, like, how much content do you need before you start trying to build that audience and that platform? Because you can't build it around a concept too much. I mean, you kind of have to have something that shows what they can buy, and then you can add to it. But that's the other thing I was told over. It's like, well, how much do I have before I start really pushing people out there so they don't come and go like, well, what's here?
There's I know what you're talking about. In the software land, there's something called MVP, which is the minimum viable product.
Yeah.
Okay. What is that minimum viable product for information? Also in software, there's a concept that I don't like, and it's called stealth mode. That's where you do all of this work, but you don't talk to anybody about it. Right? And at some point, you have a product launch. And what you realize, or what I have seen many, many times when someone has a stealth mode product and they don't talk to people about it, is when they go to launch it, what they think the customer wants and what the customer actually wants is not aligned anymore. Too much time has passed, right? But a lot of people do that. And I think you can do a little bit of stealth mode as you work on your MVP, but that MVP has to get out there really early. And so the conversation is important. And if you don't have your website online and you don't have a blog online and you're not talking to people and getting feedback, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. Because that conversation and that feedback helps you iterate. Because you can say, I'm thinking about this, what do you think? And they say, it's great, or it sucks, you have the opportunity to pivot. And it's much cheaper and faster for you to pivot early in the development process or the design process than it is when you're already shipping out the door. You know, not to say that you can't iterate when you ship, you can. You know, and I think good software products iterate quickly, have very short development cycles.
You're going to go through that production cycle of your content before.
Yeah, and a lot of when I teach developers how to write code and how to ship software products, part of that conversation is short development cycles, small iterations, fast iterations, and communication with your customer. Because they've got to see it, they've got to play with it, they've got to hold it, and they've got to be able to give you back. So you've got to ask the right questions. Do you like it? What do you love about it? What do you hate about it? Don't be shy, right? And when you're doing information products, it's the same thing. This is what I like, this is what I'm passionate about. Other people will start to gravitate to your message, your information online. And then you start to give away that information, typically in blog posts. And then you might write a manual or a how-to and say, hey, I've got this manual I put together, opt in to get it. And you create that funnel of visitors that turn into leads, that then turn into prospects that are eventually going to buy something from you. But they don't typically buy something from you right away. Not typically. So, any other questions? Comments? What'd you love? What'd you hate?
What did you love?
Can we get some quick feedback?
Fabulous, fabulous organization, just outstanding.
Thank you.
Clarity.
This used to be called a clarity exercise, to be quite honest with you. The first time I put this together was after going to a Brendan Burchard event. Huge fan of Brendan? Great stuff. So I went to one of his Experts Academy events. Everybody stands up in the room, and my gut feeling was they don't understand the technology it takes to put all of this stuff together. So they're getting all of this great information and great strategies, and if you apply the strategies, you can have some success. But you got to understand the technology that powers all of that too. And as a software developer, I'm also a software architect. And one of the things that I do as a software architect is break down what it takes to build a software application or a process or a workflow. And so I get to apply that to information technology or information products and say, okay, what do you want to do? What do you know? Let's think about the products that it can create. What's the value of those products? Now let's put those into an income plan. Are you making just a little bit of money? Or do you need to, this is how you're feeding your family? What are your goals and your aspirations? And you slowly build it up from there. And so every encounter or every time I work with someone, it's always a little bit different, because everybody's outcome is a little different. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Well, I think this is one of the meatiest of these Tuesday afternoons we've had in a long time. It's just, I'm just like, pulling it all together for me. I've been teaching the social media classes, and we've been talking about this idea of, sort of warming up with value and creating a relationship with value and all, but, this is kind of going 2 or 3 steps beyond that to really put it into a framework, which I love. So bring your workbooks back next week, and thank you, Steve Stolee, for taping it for us. And so this will be a way for you to go online and review it. Steve's got some other things going too, so I'm not going to say that it's going to be online by next week, but this will be a great resource for us to go back to. So thank you all, and if you want to say an announcement.